Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Death Battle Cast. I'm excited for this week's episode. This is going to be a fun one. Hey, I'm
Yeah.
Ben. I'm the voice of Wiz. You guys know who I am. There's Chad. I think he's the voice of Boomstick. I don't know. Did
I've
we
just been
recast you
faking
yet?
it
No.
this whole time.
And we got Liam, naturally,
Too
who's
small.
being a cool guy, it looks like.
Those are too small. They have long
Oh,
mother.
no.
Too small.
Almost.
Tried to put
Almost
them
could've
on,
been.
would have broken them.
And we got John today. What's up, John?
Oh,
If you don't know who John is, he's been the storyboard artist for most of our death battle fights for a
5?
long time now.
Yeah.
Years and years.
Yeah.
I was about to
Wait,
say like
like,
a
not to,
number, and I
like-
realized how long have you
Yeah.
been making story? Like,
Yeah,
for
what was your
storyboards?
first one?
My first one
Like-
officially as a intern was, I believe, Sasuke versus Hiei.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, it's been a while.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Season 6, 2019. Pre-pandemic.
A different age.
Yeah. Hey, it really
First
was.
Trump
man.
term.
Oh gosh, that's an interesting series of words.
Those were the days.
All right. So today we got a pretty packed cast for today. So we're gonna jump into this. Do want to say we got a lot coming up in this upcoming year. We're excited to be really jumping into 2025 Death Battle very soon. We have our first preview for Kratos versus Asura coming up this weekend, which is exciting. I'm really excited to show you guys this episode. It's been coming together incredibly well. And then we have some other announcements that we'll say for later on in the show. But members, just so I remember to get this out right away, members, we love you and we want to make more content for you. And tomorrow we will be doing a fireside chat, which is members exclusive. You can jump in that, and we're going to talk about all sorts of stuff with you guys. So that is tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central Time. Excited to see you all there. Today we are covering a matchup that we very briefly talked about last week. It is one of the pitches that was sent in by a backer for the Kickstarter. And we had a whole pitch call about it with them and discussed it with them. And it was extremely fun to talk about. But we only briefly talked about it last week. And it became very clear, I think, to everybody that that's not enough, right? We need to talk about this thing more than that. So we are going to be talking about these pitches that were submitted by these Kickstarter backers in a little bit of a different format than that. This also sort of coincides with something I've been wanting to try with Death Battle Cast. I'm curious what all of you think about this. I think we've been doing the debate format of Death Battle Cast kind of the same way for many, many years now. And while it totally works for a lot of the episodes or the matchups that we talk about, I do think that format of us literally trying to compete with each other can sometimes get in the way of like learning about the characters and really discussing them at length. I think a great example is the Master Chief Captain Titus one from a few weeks ago. That it kind of just turned into us really wanting to learn more about Warhammer 40K and the whole, we knew what Master Chief was capable of, so bringing him back into the conversation felt more obligatory than, part of the conversation. So for those particular matchups, I'm kind of curious about not changing the format of Death Battle Cast, but approaching it a little differently. So for certain matchups, we're obviously going to, stick with that debate thing, right? Because it works for a lot, and it's not stale or anything like that. Love doing the debates. But others, I think we should maybe focus more on a deep dive approach, where it's less about us literally arguing with each other and more about what the fuck is up with this character. Let's really figure out what is up with this character or this matchup. And I think Palpatine versus Makuta from Bionicle is a great one to take that focus on, because we've never really talked about Bionicle. We've talked about Palpatine. People know who Palpatine is. He's the scary, creepy old man who shoots lightning and laughs like a maniac. He's great. And there's going to be a lot of stuff we can talk about regarding Palpatine, about what he's capable of in terms of the matchup. But what I want to know is what the fuck is up with this Bionicle guy? How the hell does he like even compete with Palpatine? Why is this a matchup idea at all? And I think this really comes down to let's talk about some Bionicle lore, guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about that. There is also a second matchup. We'll see how long, since this is kind of like being a little experimental here with this format. We'll see how long we could spend on just talking about Makuta. Who knows? Maybe we have something to talk about for like a whole full hour. Maybe it'll last 20 minutes. When we reach a natural endpoint, there is a second matchup that I would love to discuss, and we'll see if we can get to that today. We're figuring this out as we go, but I think it's going to be a good way to approach these types of matchups. And again, this won't necessarily be the format we use for every single Kickstarter pitch matchup. It'll just depend. It's also not necessarily going to be a format that is only for the Kickstarter pitch matchups. This would probably be a better format for a future episode that is like that Warhammer 40K. Maybe we'll revisit Warhammer 40K and do a full-on deep dive. Who knows? But yeah, it's just something that I'm interested in trying out, and we'll see how this goes. So I'm very curious to see everybody watching this. You know, whether you're watching this live, we do this live every Tuesday at noon Central Time, or if you're watching the VOD later on or listening to it, let us know in the comments what you think about this new format. And I mean, by new format, it's just like a slight tweak to the existing format. It's not like a brand new, type of show.
Yeah,
All
like to be clear, you vote for me, even if there isn't a poll.
Yeah.
Vote
No,
for me.
we're gonna never go back to the old way, so that way Liam ends on like a 4 episode.
5.
Oh, 5. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 losing streak.
Yeah.
If
So
there is a
Michael
poll
Mc-
at the end of this, I'm confident. I'm confident.
All right.
That's all you
Michael
need.
McDonald also with a big super chat says, "Hello, hey boys, the supporters of Kurumi say hello."
Awesome. And then Thide Wraith says, not gonna lie, I can imagine this format working for lesser known versus like Destiny, Creepypasta, SCP, and so on. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's kind of my thought. Like, we hadn't talked about Warhammer before, so throughout that whole episode, I was like, I want to talk about this more, and like I feel like we're like just scraping the surface. So that's kind of the idea.
We can do a sub cast, like do a separate cast series where we just talk about Warhammer lore. I feel is the move.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. So we're gonna do a deep. I'm just calling these deep dives. Who knows? Maybe we'll come up with a better name later. Although I think it's pretty good. Deep dives and debates. That's the 2 different formats, right? So today we're doing deep dives, and Liam has taken it upon himself to be our guinea pig to dive into the crazy lore of Bionicle. And I'm excited to jump into that. The last announcement I have before we jump into the Bionicle discussion is we're going to conventions, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chad, do you want to talk about the upcoming cons?
Yeah, absolutely. So a week from Friday, well, Thursday technically is day 0 for MagFest. We're gonna be at MagFest. It's in National Harbor, Maryland, at the Gaylord Resort and Convention Center, which is a very, very nice hotel, and very large. MagFest is some of our favorite. It's it's my favorite convention of all time, aside from SGC. But so like MagFest, we've been out there since it was in a tiny, shitty old hotel, and it's been great to grow with them. And they wanted to bring us back out this year. It is an absolute blast. I cannot stress enough. You guys will see live concerts. There's a arcade and video game room that never shuts down, and that's pretty much where I live, on the Third Strike cabinet, if I'm not on a panel or at a room party. Tons of former Screw Attack partners always are out there. It's an absolute blast. And actually, Brandon is going to be out there playing some music live. Brandon also. And then also our friends at Hang Time are coming out as well. So we've got a death battle panel, we got some autograph signings, and we've got a fun little joint panel that we're going to be doing with Hang Time that might involve a spelling bee and drinking.
We'll see how that goes.
We'll see how that goes. It's going to be wild. So mark your calendars. That's January 23rd, 24th, 25th, and 26th. In National Harbor, Maryland. So just search MagFest or Super MagFest, and you'll find us. And then, if you can't make it out to there, if you happen to be or want to travel to Birmingham, Alabama, On February 7th, we are going to be out at Comic-Con. That's Kamicon. It's an anime convention out there. They also celebrate gaming. And we were like, hey, like we got some friends that live in Alabama, and also we've never done a convention in Alabama. Let's go. And Comic-Con's been super cool to work with. They're excited to have us out. So it's gonna be our first time at Comic-Con. So if that works for you, come say hi. We're gonna be doing some panels, got autograph sessions, and maybe partaking in some of the other things that Comic-Con has to offer. So yeah.
And that is Comic-Con, Kami.
Yep.
Con, so that you'll find it that way.
Not
And I guess I do have one last thing I'd
COMMIE.
say before we get to the Bionicle thing, which is just referencing the fires that are currently going on in California. It's a shitty situation for a lot of people out there. Liam has some experience.
Yeah.
Right, man.
Bad.
Yeah,
So it's so bad.
It's if you're not aware of what's going on, there was it's a huge natural disaster that's like going on right now. Spurned on from one of the worst windstorms in LA history, that has led to the worst wildfires in that area in ever, I think. It's bad. So there is a link in the description to a Tiltify campaign that's going on from the Tiltify Impact Fund. And if you are able to donate and want to donate to help the firefighters, people in need, that is a great place to do it. So feel free to check that out if you can.
All right. I'm going to catch up on super chats and everything so we can just then get into this and go. So Excalibur says Palpatine's going to get murked by a Lego set.
True.
Michael McDonald
Accurate.
says we should check out Takanuva for an episode if we do more Bionicle. Grave King gifted out a membership. Gelatin Man gifted out 5 memberships. So if you guys got memberships, thank you. Say hi in the chat. You can talk now. And also check out the exclusive membership content like our fireside chat tomorrow. Bam, call back. And then Cameron, thank you for sharing their like nostalgia stuff for Bionicle and when they listen to and watch the commercials and stuff. And then Johan just donated a significant amount because it's orange, but it's in SEK. So thank you. No mess.
We're American. We don't know other.
Yeah.
SEK.
It's orange, so it means it's a lot. Thank you so much, Johan.
I want to go.
SEK, I believe, is Swedish, right? Yeah.
Johan.
So, okay. So, Takanuva, I believe, is the gold mask one, right?
He is the gold
I remember.
mask
So
one.
when I was a kid, I remember getting the Bionicle comics for the first 2 generations, I think. And I remember reading them as a kid and having no fucking idea what was going on.
Yeah.
So Liam, let's talk about Makuta, Matanui, classic Bionicle lore. Where do you want to start with this? And we can bring up the thumbnail for because the idea is that he's fighting Palpatine. I'm curious why Palpatine as well.
I know that this is just a deep dive, but Makuta is going to do a deep dive into Palpatine's asshole and rip him apart.
Okay.
So
he's that kind of guy, huh? He's
okay.
Yeah, doing the research for this as somebody
first official Bionicle lore. Makuta.
What a way to start! What a way to start!
Right the fuck. It's one of the 42 powers that he has. There's a reference. Okay, so doing the research for this was incredible because it was the first time. And this does not happen to me. I have an encyclopedic knowledge of nerd shit. It's not super deep, but it's broad, you know? This is the first time I went in a wiki, and genuinely, every single sentence, I did not know what it was talking about because it would introduce a new noun, which is fine, but I didn't know what it was. And then I'd click on the noun to go to the page to understand what it was, and then it would be the same thing. So it would just be more nouns that I was not familiar with. So I spent about half an hour just clicking continually until.
This is exactly how Nick described researching Blaze Blue.
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Look at all
these
tabs that I have open." That all started from me trying to understand one thing. Like,
yeah, it's intense, and it is kind of like. It's kind of incredible. It's like, okay, they're toys, but they have created like it's like Transformers. It is that level of like unbelievable depth. Okay, so I can move on. Okay. How do I start? Okay, so do you know what Bionicle means? It's actually a portmanteau of bisexual onicle, which I found really interesting.
Not what I was expecting.
No, biological chronicle.
Okay.
Don't ask me to explain it beyond that. Okay, so
I actually did not know
pterodax.
Cool.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. But I thought bisexual onicle would be funnier.
That really got me, Liam. That may be my favorite joke you've ever done on
I
Kai.
actually
That
believe
was really good. Okay. Whew.
I started to watch a lore video, but the lore video, this is by Ben Saint. It's called Every Bionicle's Lore Explained in Obsessive Detail. I started watching it. It's 13 hours, so I didn't finish it. I actually didn't even get to any of the Bionicles. But I did do my research. I used Biosector, which helped explain and contextualize the nouns a little better. Okay, so pterodax is this massive prick. Just an asshole. Makuta pterodax, he's a Makuta, which is like the Slytherins of Bionicles. They're like a group that was created by Matanui, who is kind of their god, even though he was created by beings called the Greater Beings. Matanui was created by them, and he created pterodax in order to, and the Brotherhood of Makuta, in order to essentially seed the universe with life, the Matoran universe with life, and sort of govern it and be good guys. But Makutas are Slytherins, so they're all like really ambitious assholes. And Makuta started. There were like conflicts and stuff, and through the civil wars and whatnot, he was sort of like, "Oh, I can be the big boy. I want to be the big boy." And started to be an asshole. And he made a startling realization. Sam, could you bring up Makuta 2? And that's not the name of a different Bionicle. That is the name of the file I sent you. Makuta 2 is okay. That's the Matoran universe. Those are all of the different islands where the Bionicles live.
Okay.
Tell me, Ben and Chad, or Ben or John. Does that look like anything to you? Does that remind you of something?
It looks like a person.
It looks like a person.
It looks like a
Yeah.
person, doesn't it?
Yes.
Because pterodax learned that they're actually inside a dude. The universe is inside of a giant
Bisexual
fucking robot. He is inside of a giant bisexual onicle,
Here you go.
which is where you get the term from.
Yeah.
And Sam, could you bring up Makuta 1? So the giant, it's called the Great Spirit Robot.
Hell yeah.
Oh my god, that's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. It is a giant spaceship robot that is, let me be clear here, 40 million feet tall, which is over 12,000 kilometers, which is a little bit less than the diameter of the Earth, which means that those planets, and this is very consistent in the Earth, those planets must be absolutely fucking huge.
That's what I
Holy
was
fuck.
just saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
He is the size of the Earth, essentially. And Matanui controls it, and the purpose of the great beings building the fucking robot, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm sure I'm getting details wrong, but the purpose of that was because their planet Spherus Magna was blown up or got fucked really hard and split into like 3 kind of like smaller planets, and they were like, we need to build a giant robot that is going to bring all of those pieces back together. And also travel the universe and whatever. So Matanui created pterodax eventually with the purpose that pterodax would take over the giant robot, and Matanui would go in the second giant robot, and then they'd like they'd hug and kiss and bisexual onicles, and they'd physically bring the planets back together and fix Spherus Magna.
Liam,
which I
Doug
think they
says,
did.
how many pieces is he to build?
So it's actually 3.
Just
I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Oh, I was like,
I'm like,
Super Money gifted out 5 memberships. Thank you.
Yeah,
All right.
it's actually they have their own box set, and it's really easy. It's only 3 pieces. Okay, and
There
then
actually is a Matanui box set.
Matanui takes different forms, so that might be his like Bionicle form. that he's not like in possessing the giant great spirit robot. Anyways, Makuta had this big old plan, and he's like 80,000 fucking years old, or 100,000 or 80,000, I forget which one. And he had this big old plan where he created a virus that put Matanui to sleep, which then caused the great spirit robot to fucking crash. This is Makuta 3. It crashed into the giant water planet, which was a fragment of Spheros Magna. And when it laid down, it sort of sunk in the water, and its camouflage systems turned like malfunctioned. So I think it went like invisible effectively, and like an island formed on top of its face. So I think the idea is that the premise sets up that like, oh, they're on an island planet, and it's like, actually no, they're on an island in a water planet as part of a giant fucking robot that can fly through space. Is my impression of what it's setting up, sort of going through this backwards.
Okay, so their universe is inside a massive robot,
giant
then
robot,
got put to sleep and crashed into a water planet, and then an island formed on top of it.
Basically.
Yeah, you guys can please correct me. But this is apparently what Xenoblade is. That's so funny. I didn't know that about Xenoblade. Okay, so Makuta's powers are everything. He's like Palpatine. He's like Palpatine, where it's sort of like he has so many different Force abilities. It's not the Force, but he has tons and tons and tons of abilities. He can fly. He can manipulate your emotions, either like making you so angry you'll poo yourself, or you'll like be so scared that you'll like pass out. You'll go unconscious. He can't make people poo themselves. I'm joking. They're robot. They're like robot people.
Robots.
Yeah, nobody on the
Bionicle
world poops themselves. They're
I don't know. Well,
they're Legos.
I'm not gonna say that there isn't poop, but I'm pretty sure there isn't, because I think that they're all like energy beings made of energized
things in one of the movies, right?
Do they?
Dude,
I could have sworn that there. Maybe I'm thinking of a different movie, but I could have sworn there was like a feast in one of them. But maybe
Do
I'm wrong.
Bionicles eat food?
I think that they have an equivalent to like Energon, which is called energized
okay.
protodermis. No, they don't.
Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Makuta.
My experience with the movie, like the Gold Mask movie, is when I was a kid. Anytime we went to CC's, which is a pizza chain, for whatever reason they were always playing that. It was always on the TV there.
That's so funny. Did you like piece it? Did you piece the movie together
Eventually,
over time?
I think I watched the whole thing just in completely like
just have it
wrong order.
That's cool.
On loop. Yeah.
I just understood one of the first sources for that Google search is a Reddit thread, and it says, "Did Bionicles have to eat and drink and poop?"
This was the exact question we were looking for. Okay, anyway.
They absorb energy through their hands and mouths, and like from like plants and shit. They do the Superman thing.
A floating shopping list. So is this discount Transformers? No, I don't think so. I mean, humans don't really exist, right?
It's humans don't exist.
Yeah.
Humans aren't a thing. Here's a funny pun. Do they have sex? As in, like, do they get bricked up? That's a funny joke we can make in the script. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So Wizard Lizard says, think about it this way. Matoran are blood cells, Toa are white blood cells, Makuta are viruses or rogue cells.
Yes,
inside of giant space robots.
And the Matoran are just like normal people, basically.
Matoran are normal people. The Toa are like the warriors, and the Turaga are like when you retire, I think. I forget what they're called, something like that. And then the Makuta are the virus. They're the bad guys. They're the stupid idiots.
So Pterodax is like the main guy, and I remember
he's the main guy.
He was always just this sort of force that they kept talking about, and they had to like he was sending minions and things after them, but they never encountered him until the very end of the story, and he was like in a cave or something.
He's like if the devil won in his rebellion against heaven. Which is kind of metal.
Okay.
I just realized that's actually kind of a sick thing to say. That goes hard.
All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep going down this list of powers because it's really long.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious how he would actually like fight Palpatine, or how Palpatine would even survive a fight.
He wouldn't, which is why you're gonna vote for me.
I feel like electricity works really good against robots, though, right?
No, he has electric powers. I don't think that they're, and by the way, I don't think that they're robots.
Yeah.
I think they're more like armor exoskeletons that are possessed by spirits, like energy spirits. I could be wrong. I wasn't quite able to fully grasp the idea about. I think I get it behind protodermis and antidermis and energized protodermis. I think that protodermis is like life energy, and then antidermis is like the evil life energy. This is what I'm gathering. I'm just
Well,
troping it together.
Tim 10,000 says Makutas are energy beings called antidermis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
And he can, like Palpatine, who can like die and then his soul goes out and goes blah. His Makuta can exist just as antidermis and sort of float around and possess other robots. So if they got into a fight, I'm pretty sure Makuta would he'd be fighting Palpatine, and then he'd put up a force field around him or something, and then he'd send his spirit out to one of his little I don't know, robot, one of Palpatine's robot fucking guards or something, and pop in and then just blast Palpatine in the fucking head
Could
friendly
Makuta
fire.
possess a Star Destroyer or the Death Star?
I hadn't thought of that, but we're gonna get to something later, which I'm gonna say quite possibly. In fact,
Okay.
what if he did the fucking Death Star? What if he did the Death Star? I went boom.
Speaking of boom, Gilded Data just gifted 20 Death Battle memberships. So
Holy
thank
shit.
you.
Whoa.
Everybody thank Gilded Boom if you got
Yeah,
a
you just
membership.
got gifted. Say thanks to Gilded.
Trousers.
Okay. So
Pissed off bartender, and now I want a Bionicle Death Star.
Hey,
That'd be pretty sick.
Bionicle is pretty freaking cool when it was a thing. I know they moved to other ideas and other similar attempts as Bionicle, but Bionicle lasted a while.
Yeah. Is it not still going? Or is it not?
I don't think so. Is it?
I haven't heard about it recently, but I also it's just I do my taxes and I read Proust. So I haven't.
Is that
I haven't been in the world of
taxes don't.
Yeah,
Line
it's
was launched
actually
in 2001.
It's yeah, part of the 16th Amendment in the Constitution. The income tax amendment involves Bionicle and says if you do Bionicle, you don't have to pay an income.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, this says there was something in 2023, which I don't know about. But it looks like they tried rebooting in 2015 and it didn't really.
Oh, right.
Oh,
there was a reboot. Yeah, reboot. Yeah, because the lore kept going. There's I gather that thousands of years or something have passed since this whole arc of Makuta and stuff. I don't want to say thousands, but time has passed and things have changed. The story actually matters. It isn't we aren't still in the Makuta's the villain and he just keeps getting away with it. No, he's done. His story's done. They fixed Spherus Magna. The Great Spirit Robot is no longer on the planet.
So there is a definitive end to Makuta Pterodactyl's story.
Yeah, because
Okay.
he eventually, I guess we're talking about it, so I'll just get to it
go
now. He does eventually possess the Great Spirit Robot, and takes full control of it like Matanui did, and fights Matanui in a big old battle because Matanui takes control of another giant robot as was originally planned, and then they fight. So when I said he could take control of a Star Destroyer or the Death Star, I was thinking I don't know if he could possess a body that big or a machine that complicated. And I went, wait, yes he could, because when you possess the Great Spirit Robot, you're essentially omnipotent for everything that is in the Matoran universe. You control everything. He controls everything inside of his body, basically. Which includes apparently being able to teleport people outside of your body. If they're inside of the Matoran universe, he can pop you out into space. So I imagine the fight taking place in the Matoran universe, and then he goes, I'm done fucking with you, Palpatine. He teleports Palpatine out into space, so Palpatine is just floating and fucking dying. Then he does a big old fucking Marvel versus Capcom combo on him as a giant planet robot. And then he he grabs Palpatine, he's he goes out and possesses the Death Star, finishes this combo by blasting Palpatine with the Death Star, and it's combo 100. And then Palpatine explodes.
Exactly how it would go.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Bama later.
Okay, so that's freaking wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the idea of him possessing like any of the Star Wars ships or whatnot would be
That's so
be
fun. Like the
super-
Star Wars ships are like shooting at the giant robot, like trying to
Yeah.
like blow it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So looking at the his the Mata Nui figure. So it's not Pterodax, which Pterodax probably has a figure as well. I'm sure. But Mata Nui
Yes.
himself, the like god essentially, is only 366 pieces. So pretty reasonable that you can put that
Whoa.
together. Just
Oh,
like you
okay.
can put together a character with a sponsor
Nice.
for today's episode.
New
Hey!
sponsor.
That's good.
Yeah. So this Death Metal Cast is sponsored by Hero Forge, which is awesome because I've used Hero Forge for years. I think Hero Forge is freaking awesome. So I'm excited to talk about it. Hero Forge offers fully customizable tabletop miniatures with dozens of fantasy species and thousands of parts to choose from. Their easy-to-use design tool lets you build your perfect miniature online using a fully 3D in-depth character creator right in your web browser. Their color technology gives you advanced options like decals, makeup, war paint, and more. And honestly, if you're like me and you spend way too much time in the character creator of any video game because it's just super fun to like build characters and whatnot, that's basically what Hero Forge is. Except then you get to get your character like printed as a physical mini in full color. It's awesome. Like especially if you play any sort of tabletop game and you haven't looked at Hero Forge, or you're just interested in like making like characters and like taking that art and using it in some way, this is right up your alley. I highly recommend just going to it, and there's like a free version. You can try it out and start tinkering with it. It's super fun, and there's just so much you can do with it. So for pro subscribers, kit bashing is a new feature that levels up the customization experience on Hero Forge. Not only can you create your character, but you can add like a huge amount of items to the character. And each item can be placed anywhere on the mini, and you have more freedom than any before to create like bespoke minis that fully represent your character's unique, personalized story. Each item has its own independent scaling, rotation, movement, color, and more. It's legitimately really impressive. And remember, all of this can be printed and like become your own little mini. It's awesome. So you can go to heroforge.com and use code DBC to get 5% off of all orders of physical miniatures. The link is in the description. Visit heroforge.com to start designing your custom miniature today, and check back often because new content is added every week. Legitimately, if you haven't seen it before, it's really cool.
Yeah. And it's super easy to use. It's one of those things you can go into like pretty much as much detail as you want. You could just be like, oh, that face is fine. Or you can customize the face even more and things like that.
Yes.
And I saw some comments that were like, you should make figures of Wiz and Boomstick. And we're good. Maybe Ben and I are in the process of that because maybe Hero Forge was really cool and gave us some codes. So
yeah, you'll probably be seeing a figure of Wiz and Boomstick pretty soon.
Yep.
I'm excited about that. All right. So, is there anything else that you think we should talk about regarding Bionicle?
Well, very quickly, Gelatin Man said Palpatine cool and all, but does his action figure come in something that allows you to crack it open a cold one and then build that figure? No, then I think I know who wins. But then someone was talking, Scuzz says this happens, we should have Palpatine be his Lego model. Which I thought was very funny.
Yeah, I can see that.
Would people like that, or do they want to see like a dude fight a giant like Bionicle toy?
And Super Kaiju fan brings up a good point. Are you using canon or Legends Palpatine or a composite?
Would
Okay,
it matter?
So teleport into space.
Oh, okay.
Giant planet combo. Death Star finisher combo finisher.
I guess they haven't really established how Palpatine, somehow returned.
Yeah, he just somehow returned.
So whereas they did very much establish it in Legends, you can like force spirit possess, or his spirit can possess force beings and things like that. So I don't know.
Like Makuta.
I guess that's kind of like like the idea here where the Pterodax's spirit possesses the giant spirit robot and whatnot. That's interesting. I don't know if that would like play a role, but there's definitely a comparison there that I can see.
Yeah.
Okay, this is kind of so Ben was the not me, another Ben was the original pitcher of this matchup, the backer who pitched it. Um, and I think he did a really good job pitching it and giving this like idea of what the matchup would be like. But as we've discussed in this more and more, like I can see it in my head how this would necessarily play out, and it would be a very unique death battle for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
starts as dude versus robot and ends in universally scaled humongous robot Death Star lasers and explosions.
Combo.
So I'm curious what everybody in chat like sees this fight like being. You know what? I love the question you just posed about about Palpatine. So I'm gonna actually make a poll. Let's see. Start a poll. Should it be a stop motion Lego fight?
That's what Jonas just getting.
Oh,
They're like, for like the actual death battle, like the using the movie model of Bionicle, and like I think could work. But they're saying, but for DVX, but I mean, look, we've always wanted to do a stop motion death battle, but I've talked about it forever.
let's get Aardman in here.
Yeah,
Yeah. I love it. Okay, so while that poll's going, there is a second matchup that we have, and I would love to get into it. Specifically, the idea proposed by Hollowbrine was Gamera versus Fatalis from Monster Hunter. And we have covered Gamera before. Gamera has a lot, like the last time we covered Gamera was literally in the first like 3 years or something of Death Battle's existence. So there's a lot that Gamera versus Godzilla did not cover about Gamera. And there was also a recent anime. So there's so much to talk about with Gamera. And I actually am personally really curious about this matchup because I love Gamera. I think he's probably my favorite kaiju. But I know nothing about Fatalis, and we've never covered Monster Hunter in Death Battle before. So John is here to help discuss what the deal is with Monster Hunter. If we were to bring Fatalis into Death Battle, what would we want to be talking about? And who the hell is this dragon?
All right.
Is he even a dragon?
Yes, he is he's a dragon. He is the dragon. He also known as like an origin dragon. Like to give you a basic understanding, Fatalis is the quintessential final boss monster in a lot of the Monster Hunter games. Like he is like supposed to be like the highest challenge for a lot of high rank, master rank / G rank Monster Hunter players. He is usually reserved as this big spectacle creature, and in lore, he is one of the strongest monsters in all of Monster Hunter. Pretty much, only few, maybe mostly one monster, most recently in Monster Hunter World, has been stated to be a rival to him, that being Safi Jiva. And Safi Jiva is like infant form is named Xenojiva, and he's like the whole thing with them is that the whole thing with monsters is that they fundamentally shape and restructure the foundation of an ecosystem simply by existing. To go into like general Monster Hunter lore with Fatalis in mind, he is considered a dangerous first-class monster. There is only a few amount of these in Monster Hunter history, and he is so metal that when he fights other Monster Hunters and beats them, he takes their armor. That's Autocom, right? All these. He takes Monster Hunter aaarmor, welds it to himself to add to its own defenses. It
He's like Godric the Grafted.
Yes. And and it's been showcased that this is not just like something that he does. This is not just a random thing that he just does to make itself stronger. He specifically does this. He is intelligent enough because he hates humanity that much that it's sort of like mocking Monster Hunters themselves, how they kill monsters and then use their armor and stuff to use their bodies and stuff to make their own armor.
Yeah. So
Oh,
my
that's awesome.
my understanding from when Hallbrand was pitching this is the idea is there's the Gamera is the guardian of the universe, friend to all children. He's like the savior, a kaiju, right? Whereas Fatalis is the exact opposite. He's the kaiju essentially that just hates everybody, wants to blow everybody up, wants to kill everyone.
Yeah.
But both of them stem from an ancient civilization that they caused to go extinct. So they have very similar origins, but he's basically what if Gamera A was a dragon and not a turtle,
It's super
B
evil.
went bad.
Yeah.
So I really love that connection.
Yeah, there was an ancient civilization that went to war with a lot of elder dragons and dragons in general, and the civilization got so advanced that they actually took out a lot of the dragons, and they got a little too zealous in this war. And then Fatalis literally showed up and laid waste to the entire land with his fire breath alone. And this is just regular Fatalis. There is two other versions of Fatalis.
That's what I was about to say. When we were in the call, we learned a lot because there's the normal version is like the black dragon, then there's a white Fatalis and a red Fatalis.
Yeah, Crimson Fatalis is a Fatalis that lost a battle and secluded himself in a volcano and then developed more heightened fire powers and can summon meteors from the sky because, you just learn how to do that when living in a volcano.
The way it was described to us is that he got so angry because of the defeat or whatever that the fire inside of him burned so hot it turned him red.
Definitely helped. Also as part of it. White Fatalis is just an old Fatalis that learned how to harness lightning. And it was this thing in the community for a while that when his boss battle involves a solar eclipse happening, for the longest time we're like, does he cause the solar eclipse? Whether you believe he caused the solar eclipse or not, it's not really combat applicable. It's just cool if he does. But it's always either he shows up via solar eclipse or he causes it himself because he's a drama queen. He likes to have a spectacle and show it.
Sure. Well, and also if he can manipulate planets, like Gamera has some feats that get into that sort of planetary. They're a little more nebulous in Gamera's case, but like there are examples of him, flying through space, flying between planets and whatnot. One movie mentions that he's like from outside the universe, though I think that's more like a lore within the story of that movie and not actually true. But yeah, like there's definitely ways that could potentially compare.
Yeah, if you want to hear something ridiculous, bring up Dalmadur for me. And I love that name so much. Dalmadur is this sick, giant-looking serpent creature.
Okay.
Now, this is why I believe more into he's causing the solar eclipse, because this thing has item descriptions and item lore that implies that he can become as hot as the sun. His scales and all that sort of stuff, the various items depict that he straight up is tied to stars and various monuments in our solar system. That he summons meteors in his fight. And it's basically said it via item descriptions that he summons these meteors from the sun. Implying that he is destroying
That's not where meteors come from.
Yeah,
that doesn't make any sense.
In the Monster Hunter world, it does, Liam.
There's no rocks in the sun.
Sure.
Sun meteors.
Okay, there is one thing that Gamera has, one ability that Gamera has that sounds like it could be a pretty detrimental counter to Fatalis. But before we get to that, Chad, I think there's another sponsor we want to talk about, right?
I know. I was about to say we got a lot of support.
Expressly would like to discuss.
I had my own segue.
Oh, okay.
I said family leader gets it out 10 Death Battle memberships, which is a lot of support. And speaking of a lot of support, this next sponsor has been there for us for quite a long time, and they're back. And that's ExpressVPN. Hey, do you live stream your most intimate moments for the whole internet to see? I don't. But if you're going online without ExpressVPN, you could be accidentally sharing very private moments with millions of people. Let's be real. Everyone needs a VPN. Did you know internet providers in the US are legally allowed to sell the information they gather about you? And they have a lot because all of your web traffic flows through their servers. ISPs know every single website you visit, even your mobile network provider knows. ExpressVPN reroutes 100% of your traffic through secure encrypted servers so your ISP can't see your browsing history. Like, no matter what you're doing on the internet, you should be using a VPN. I know I do, and ExpressVPN is super, super easy. It's just a little, like one tap of a button, and you're good to go. It's on tons of devices, so you can protect your PC, your phone, all that kind of stuff. And just to let you guys know, like, pandemic was crazy times, right? ExpressVPN came in and sponsored the hell out of us and was really a critical factor into keeping us going during the pandemic. So ExpressVPN has a very, very warm and fuzzy place in our heart, and we appreciate them. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making it extremely difficult for third parties to track your online activity. It's also extremely easy to use. Just fire up the app, click one button to get protected. ExpressVPN works on all your devices, phones, laptops, tablets, and more, so you can stay private on the go. Best of all, ExpressVPN has been rated the #1 VPN by top tech reviewers like CNET and The Verge. Protect your online privacy today by visiting expressvpn.com/dbc. That's expressvpn.com/dbc. And you can get an extra 4 months free. expressvpn.com/dbc. Give you 4 months. Thank you.
Thank you, ExpressVPN. Yeah, I believe all of us or most of us at some point have used ExpressVPN, so we can vouch for them.
They're great.
All right. So the counter that I was thinking of that Gamera has is he has the ability to absorb all sorts of energy, including fire and electricity. He can use that to like heal himself. He can use that to power up his own attacks, fire his giant like chest mana beam. So if Fatalis is primarily shooting fire and electricity, how is he actually fighting Gamera?
There is one thing I knew something like this would show up, so I tried to look and see if something particular works the way I think it does. So in Monster Hunter, there are various status elements and status effects. There's like Blast Blight and all that sort of stuff. One thing that Fatalis and many of the Elder Dragons have that are like strictly like real dragons have something called Dragon Element. Dragon Element can produce Dragon Blight, which can shut off elemental abilities and powers, and can even and Fatalis also has an item description when you make something of, I believe, one of his claws is that it shuts off regenerative abilities as well. Which
okay.
So with using Dragon Element, he can probably shut off the ability to harness fire and all that other stuff that he's absorbing. And if he absorbs Dragon Element, that's not a good thing because that would also cause another type of blight that's currently escaping my brain right now. Anything that has Dragon Element is also weak to itself. So it's kind of like a ghost type. It's like a dragon type in Pokemon.
In Pokemon, dragons are good against dragons. Yeah.
So if he absorbs that, he also becomes more susceptible to his attacks now. He's like from what I've been reading, I'm pretty sure that's can be described.
Dragon Blight.
Giant fire breathing turtle, pretty much a dragon, right?
Yeah, basically.
Like,
it's Dragon.
In Monster Hunter, he would probably be considered an Elder Dragon because in Monster Hunter, you have something like Alto Ka. Please show them Alto Ka. And Alto Ka is...
That's not Alto Ka.
This is Alto Ka. He is a giant praying mantis, and he is considered an Elder Dragon.
Okay.
You also have
Egyptian praying mantis.
Yeah, you also have Big Monkey. You have like Big Angry Doggo, Big Angry Cat. Like
and they're dragons.
As a class, don't really think so much of they're dragons. So he might actually be considered one if he was in Monster Hunter.
Got it.
That actually does convince me.
Chuck Schwan Starman, thanks for the super chats. Wow, okay. That's crazy. But can Fatalis do gymnastics and play his own theme song on the corpses of his enemies?
I don't think so.
I guess how intelligent is Fatalis? Because I've seen some people in the chat mention that he is just an animal.
Yeah, he's described as an animal, and it's like in the end, take lore with a grain of salt, considering that it's just what people say. The whole thing about taking people's armor and welding it to his body as a spite towards humanity would imply some level of intelligence to have a distinct hatred towards him is one thing. There are monsters like Alto Ka that are straight up intelligent. The whole thing about Alto Ka is that he goes around gathering up materials to make a giant mech thing to fight you in. Like he's actually piloting a Gundam to try to kill you, and it's awesome.
The giant praying mantis needs a giant mech to fight you.
Yes, he's awesome.
What? All right, I've always been like, I know I'd love Monster Hunter if I took the time to play it, and this you're just adding to that.
Okay.
So I'm not one to like compare intelligence levels, but again, Fatalis is considered one of the most dangerous monsters, and the fact that he could be on par with Alto Ka, who is straight up intelligent, means that simply by being an animal doesn't necessarily mean that he isn't smart. He's also very battle savvy. He's fought hundreds, if not dozens upon dozens upon dozens of Monster Hunters, so he has the experience to take on various humans, and he is top of the food chain. It's always pronunciation of this name that always gets me. he's one of the natural predators to a monster known as the Lo Shang Long. They show Lao Shangyang. It's this giant, just hulking mass of a creature, and this thing runs for its life when Fatalis shows up.
Oh, okay.
It is
dragon. It's a dragon eat dragon world out there.
Yeah. Well, speaking of dragons, real quick. First of all, Braille says, I don't know who that was, but I want to see it fight to the praying mantis thing. And then Dino Dan, though, had to jump in and say, sorry, Monster Hunter Nerd here, but Atulka is not an Elder Dragon. It's a normal monster that is as strong as some Elder Dragons, but isn't one.
Yeah, like the semantics are all back, are all over the place. When I meant Elder Dragon, it really just means they're on Elder Dragon tier. I guess it's actually that more proves my point that Elder Dragon's more of a class system, that you can reach that level that you're that strong.
Gotcha.
So-
Well, also, like the dragons aren't necessarily as intelligent as
because-
Atulka,
Yeah.
who's building a giant mech.
Yeah.
Yeah. Santi in chat mentioned something that I kind of remember from that we talked about in the call, which is in the pitch, which is Fatalis. If you wear armor made from Fatalis after you kill it, a Fatalis, then you slowly become Fatalis.
Yeah.
And so he's wondering what if Gamera ate him? Would Gamera turn into Fatalis?
It's actually pretty interesting. The whole thing with Fatalis is that he can't really 100% necessarily die. Just as explained, if you make armor, there's various things in the armor that it corrupts your soul, makes you have nightmares. It will constantly try to kill you. You will lose yourself, and you'll become Fatalis, quote unquote. It doesn't mean that you actually like morph into a giant dragon creature. It's up in the air on that. But if he ate Fatalis, it will try to kill him from the inside. It's like an undying soul kind of thing. There's even like this like thing that's at the top of a hill that you can mine, and it regenerates itself because it actually is a piece of Fatalis of sorts. So it shows that it can regenerate. There's even talks that it's on the same level of regenerative abilities as another Elder Dragon creature. I think it's Dire Morales, who can regenerate from just his heart. I don't know if it's comparable to that, but it's the whole turning into Fatalis via wearing his armor could lead to that. But
that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just like, no matter what, like Fatalis could lose a death battle, but in the long term, Fatalis is still gonna win. You know, like.
Well, Avon Mimikyu chiming in saying, my takeaway here is that Monster Hunter is a weirder series than I realized. Every monster has some crazy lore behind them. I'm understanding, basically. So Fatalis versus Godzilla win. Yeah, I mean, that's another direction I suppose it could go. I think the general idea with like Fatalis Gamera is specifically because of their histories and the ideas behind like their ties to ancient civilizations and their relationship with humanity, because they're like so that very much the idea of like the same guy, but one went good, one went bad, kind of thing, right?
Friend to all
White hat versus
children,
black hat.
destroyer of all humanity. Like,
Enemy to children everywhere.
Specifically hates children
by default.
yes.
That's how the fight starts. The fight starts over an orphanage.
God.
So part of the lore of Gamera is there's this kind of goes back to the thing that I think is just a part of the lore within universe and not actually literal, but is that he sort of lives off beyond the universe and can just be summoned whenever a child is in need. Gamera just knows and comes to their rescue. So it actually could be kind of perfect that like Fatalis is like threatening a kid, and that's like how the fight starts.
And then just, what's that in the sky? And it's doing the turtle.
But can he beat Goku though? I mean, Sebas, I mean, Goku would probably eat him, right? And then
Yeah.
Goku would become the next Fatalist.
Exactly.
Well,
and then the world's
I
completely
keep calling him
screwed.
Fatalist. It's Fatalis. For some reason,
I
I keep
believe-
thinking it's pronounced Fatalist.
I believe both pronunciations are pretty correct. You're pronouncing the name. It's fatal. I hear people call Fatal Fury Fatal Fury. And shit.
Ah, here's a good question.
What?
Alcor Fatal? Oh, that's
Fatal.
crazy.
How
Al-
do you in a million years call it Fatal Fury?
That-
What
yeah,
the
that's
fuck
what I
are you
mean.
doing?
It's like I'm trying to help Benny.
What the
Fatal.
fuck?
That's too far. That's too far. And if that's too
Fatal
far, then I can't call him Fatalist. But Alicorn Pictures says Gamera is a literal giant. Fatalis is just an ant compared to him. How big is Fatalis?
Now,
Feels
yeah,
like
that's
it's
the whole
more.
thing. In forms of how big Gamera is compared to Fatalis, I'm almost entirely certain that Gamera takes it like by a country mile, almost literally.
Mm.
Fatalis, you got me doing.
I got
Fatalis, I think at best, like it's very hard. I never actually tried to measure him, but he's not bigger than the dragon I showed you. He's not like Dalmadur size or anything like that. He's actually one on the smaller side of.
So I mean, skyscraper sized, or
yeah. I'd say take 2 houses, maybe at best.
Okay.
2 houses, house and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so definitely
He's a
smaller than
dragon.
Gamera then.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
Smaug.
it'll make him
Yeah.
hard to get a hold of, right?
Yeah, I think the only thing that was helping him is that he can fly, and he has like, and when comparison to Dalmadur's meteors, which he could dodge along with other hunters and monsters, he will definitely have like a speed advantage. Unless there's like, I'm almost entirely certain like Gamera has like some space travel feats, right?
Yeah,
So-
absolutely. To be
So-
fair, the majority of kaiju fights that are requested for Death Battle, there is a size discrepancy. Like
Yeah.
technically speaking, I believe when it comes to Gamera versus Godzilla, Godzilla is quite a bit larger than Gamera. This is also a thing that we run into
Robots.
with mech fights, right?
God,
Like
it's always a problem.
a lot of mechs are varying in sizes.
Makuta versus Palpatine.
There you go.
With the Great Spirit Robot. Guy,
That's
planet.
It's also the case with Makuta versus Palpatine. So, I mean, it helps that Fatalis can fly, obviously. So that would make it a lot. I think a lot more believable as a fight with when there's a giant versus a smaller creature. And I mean, 2 houses or so, like that's not
Yeah,
small by any
somebody-
stretch.
Yeah, somebody put 4,110.6 centimeters. Yeah,
Sure.
around that.
Yeah.
Real quick, Orange Blaster says in the games, Gamer can fight Space Godzilla, who absorbed 2 stars and being stronger than Pocket Universe Maker. So that's a new Gamera thing we'll get to look
That's
at.
the Godzilla game that Gamera appears in. I don't.
Like
That's
games
a
are
completely different
weird.
like, thing.
And then Johan says deep dive thing is very interesting, but wondering how that'll go for matchups we don't know about. Actually, Liam didn't know anything about Bionicle.
That's kind of the
until-
idea behind Deep
Yeah,
Dive is that if there's a franchise or characters that we're not like super familiar with, this is the perfect way to like really explore them rather than kind of force the conversation of like every of the debate, right? Of who would win. So that's the general idea behind Deep Dive.
Yeah, thank you, Friel. And then Gelatin Man says Frieza versus Megatron, but as kaijus. I mean, yeah, they.
To a certain extent, sure.
basically.
Yeah. Fatalis can open portals to destroy other worlds like that of Dragalia Lost. Portals, okay, that's crazy.
Yeah. I believe that's that's on the same level as the Godzilla thing. So yeah, it really depends on how we tackle this fight. We're taking like every iteration of them throughout media, or like certain.
Yeah, and there are multiple Fatalises. I guess technically there are multiple Gameras
There are
too.
multiple
The
Fatalis.
first Gamera,
Technically speaking, the strongest
blew
one
up.
would be the white one, since it's the older, more experienced, other element to its name, Fatalis. But it could go either way.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah, so Fatalis and just Monster Hunter in general is something we've never really fully explored in Death Battle before. So I'm very curious, everybody here, what you think of bringing Fatalis into a Death Battle. But you know, we don't have a poll at the end to determine who wins any of these, right? Because this has been a deep dive.
And so Liam can't win.
Yeah.
So Liam can't win. But you know what?
Look at
Because we are talking about two matchups, maybe this is a little unfair. Liam might be able to win because I'm going to put both matchups in a poll, and you can let us know which one you think should be a death battle.
Oh, and this is not like if this one loses, it's not gonna happen, or if this one wins, it's
No.
gonna happen. This is just for fun.
For fun.
Just gonna
Yeah,
clarify.
just for fun. Which one's your favorite between the two of these? So Palpatine versus Makuta Pterodax, and Fatalis versus Gamera.
I
Just
got
curious what people are thinking. Like, which
Yeah.
one of these two would you like to see as a death battle? That's all this is. And if you vote for Palpatine versus Makuta Pterodax, then Liam wins, and we obviously don't want that. So let me real quick vote for Fatalis versus Gamera. There we go. All right.
It's going back and forth. Yeah, no, this is really cool. Both these matchups, obviously, with the Fatalis thing. When we were in the call, I was getting big, like, oh, as the guy's Monster Hunter Deathwing, is what I was thinking. But I was like,
There's some elements of that too.
yeah, for sure. And so I was like, Deathwing could be cool.
Dude, are you guys about to get 50-50 on this poll?
No.
Yeah, do it.
I mean, both matchups are pretty freaking cool. It looks like you guys are very into both of them.
Good.
Wow. All right. That's pretty awesome. Palpatine versus Pterodax is at 51%.
Scott says
Hang on.
Makuta and Palpatine versus Gamera and Fatalis. Like, hell yeah.
Free for all.
2-on-2. Let's go. All right. It is 50-50 right
Which
now.
means
Now when
YouTube's
I click
gonna decide.
when I click end poll, YouTube is gonna decide one of these probably gets 49%. So
Yep.
we'll leave it up to YouTube to see if Liam wins or gets another loss. Ending
Uh-oh.
poll at
Oh.
Liam, you
Damn it.
Liam is 50% for Palpatine, and Fatalis got nerfed by YouTube.
Damn.
You can see the
Oh,
relief
God.
washed over him.
Damn.
It
No,
did
and of course that was just for fun.
51-49,
Yeah.
and then in the last like half a second, it went back to 50-50,
I
Yeah.
saw.
and I like.
I saw that.
ah,
Like, damn.
Oh yeah, there was an odd number of votes, Palm. That's right. So that's where one person got in to change
Oh,
the
man.
vote. Okay, at the very end.
No, don't
Run the poll back, Doug.
You're
We're
fucked.
just doing it again.
I win.
I'm good.
Again, that was just for fun to see if Leo would actually, win or whatnot. But I do really like both matchups. This was very fun. I really like just doing this kind of deep dive thing, just focusing in on the
learning about it,
characters.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So again, that doesn't necessarily mean we're not going to do a debate anytime soon. We will still do the typical debate format here and there. But I am curious what all of you thought about this sort of slight change to the format. Or I guess it's not really a format change; it's more of a focus change, like just changing what the conversation's focus is.
I want to do
And-
one on a Cosmere character.
Yeah, like this would be great for that because I think a lot of us would love to just hear you nerd out about some Sanderson character. Yeah, that'd be fun. So yeah, let us know what you think, and if there are any matchups that you'd like us to do in this way, and focus on the deep dive kind of style.
Chilton, man. Bit of a cheap win in my eyes, but congrats,
Yeah,
Liam.
I
Oh,
fucking
love it.
researched Bionicle lore.
Dude, like, yeah, no. That's a huge
You deserve
props.
I did bisexual onicles.
Yeah.
I found out about
Yeah,
them.
Yeah.
Liam's like, I had to do a ton of research. John just knows this shit. Like,
To be fair, when we were
Good
talking
guy.
about this, I was like, does anybody here know anything about Bionicle? And a lot of us were like, I mean, kind of, but like,
Complete
I
silence.
had some of the people were like, I had a toy when growing up, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So Liam volunteered to dive into the crazy Bionicle lore and learn about it.
also, we were going over a bunch of potential like upcoming matchups and things. It was kind of like, raise your hand if you know anything about these characters. And poor John, if everyone was just silent, he'd be like, Me.
So expect to
And
see
then
me
the
a lot for
Monster
days.
Hunter one really got me because you were like, really? It was like I was gonna try and give someone else this one, but
Yeah, I always wait just for a little bit, and then I'm like, I guess I'm coming in. I got this.
Yeah, so
do it.
John will be back for a few more deep dives, I'm sure.
Yeah,
There
they're
are a
great.
lot of great Kickstarter pitches that we got that we'd love to do more of these on. I think this worked out great. I really love learning about the characters this way. And thank you, Liam and John, for being on to share the deep dive info about these characters. Let us know in the comments your favorite little factoid about each of these characters, whether or not it was mentioned here or something that you think we should know that we didn't talk about here. Would love to hear about it from you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this week's Death Battle Cast. Again, we have a lot of stuff coming up. So we have a fireside chat for members. It's an exclusive call for members where it's just us and you, and we
hang
just
out.
literally chat. It's a great way for us to connect with the members of the channel, with the champions, see what everybody's thinking, where everybody's at, and just
Answer random questions.
Answer random questions, get random feedback. It's going to be a fun time. So Fireside Chat is happening tomorrow, Wednesday, January 15th at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. The first preview of Death Battle 2025 will be airing this weekend. That will be covering Kratos. We are excited to get to Kratos Asura. That is coming up very soon. We will be at MagFest in 2 weekends. So not this weekend, but next weekend. And then after that, two weekends after that is Comic-Con, which we will also be at. There's KAMI, Comic-Con, GodCon, I guess.
Mhm.
So my
Yeah.
power just flickers. I hope I did not disappear. And last but not least, there is a Tiltify campaign linked in the description below for the Tiltify Impact Fund to help the California wildfire victims and fighters and responders. Please check that out if you are able to donate. Thank you, everybody, for jumping into another Death Battle Cast. This is super fun. We will see you all next week. Take care.
Yeah. Bye.